Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of UX Because You Matter. This episode is going to be covering part 2 of my first client work. So part 1 is about how I got the client, how I had set up expectations with her, and what was the work like. So if you're interested in that, be sure to check out that video. In this video, I'm going to be going deeper dive into what I actually did for the client, going over the UX process all the way from the discovery phase to the reflection phase. So if you are really into learning about UX case studies and specifically accessibility design, then please stick around. You might want to grab something to drink, and yeah, let's strap on your seatbelts and let's go through this. Alrighty, it's time to get into my portfolio here that you can see down below. This was the first time that I actually worked on a UX design team. And so as a team, they had nominated me, I guess you could say, to be the UX project manager. So I was the liaison pretty much between the client and the team for about 3 to 4 weeks. And so that was the time frame that we had built this prototype together. In the UX design process, we have to validate the idea. Maybe the client sees that this is, going to be a game changer, but that's the client's perspective, and they're already going to have biases. And so as a UX designer, we're supposed to make sure that that idea or that problem that they see is a legit problem, because if it isn't a legit problem and there aren't enough users, then no one's gonna be interested in this product, right? The client felt that as someone who was in a wheelchair and also used a scooter, there were a lot of broken sidewalks in her neighborhood, and she had called her local city officials to complain about these broken sidewalks because there were times where she couldn't go through them, and unfortunately they didn't get anything done. She would call and complain, nothing would happen. And so she just said, I wish that there was a solution where wheelchair users could report broken sidewalks to their city. Some cities have the worst walk score, which don't allow us to be outside. And when she says us, she means other disabled people. Here, where she is walking through the streets of Atlanta, and she is just having to go on the street, as you can see right here, because the sidewalks are just that much of a mess. And in this case, the curb cut is covered by a sewer. And then when you look across the street, there's another, sewer there, no curb cut whatsoever, but in that corner there is a curb cut. So nothing really here makes absolutely any sense. This was my overall UX design process. As you can see, I did a lot of research and a lot of design. And this was very important to me just because I believe that the more research you do, the more well-informed of design decisions you're going to make. Currently, there are no apps to alert handicapped people when a pedestrian area is inaccessible. This product may be able to assist those who need guidance in the environments outside of their home. 26% of Americans have a disability, and this can include anything from mental, physical, hearing, seeing impairments, just a plethora of different disabilities. The other thing that I learned from my research is that disabled people, believe it or not, are willing to risk their lives to get to their destination. Just let that sink in for just a little bit, right? If you're a person, whether in a wheelchair or a mobile aid, and you need to cross the street, but you can't, right? There's no way that you can. They are willing to go against opposite traffic to actually cross that street. This is our persona over here as well. I had detailed what were the goals, the motivations, the needs, but even more importantly, what was very interesting about this persona is that their frustration, whether with society or government, is the driving factor behind why they would want to report. So definitely had that in mind. It was important to note that when we had put the persona together, we did not want to combine every disability into one person. It is impossible to design a solution that's going to be a one-fit-size-all type of thing. Okay, are you ready for some insights now? Insight number 1, poor sidewalk infrastructure impacts all of us. Okay, I know our client was very focused on a specific group of people, but it can impact anyone. Mothers with strollers, for example, senior citizens, people with vulnerable health, and so on and so on and so on. I mean, I think I've definitely tripped on a sidewalk before, for sure. Many people get hurt due to a broken sidewalk. Now, it was really hard to find this information as far as like how many hospitalizations are due to a broken sidewalk, but I will tell you there were 2 things that stood out that could indicate how many accidents there are, and one of them was how many lawsuits happen to the city based on broken sidewalk infrastructure. And insight number 3, which was very unfortunate, is that fixing a sidewalk is very expensive. And it depends, obviously, like what kind of material the flooring is. It depends how long it could be, whether it's just one piece or it could be a whole street or even miles of streets. It can be very expensive, and sometimes that's the reason why the city doesn't fix them. So as a UX designer, how might we create an app that will empower our users to report a faulty infrastructure? 2, create an app that's easy enough to use so that all people can report. And 3, help users get to their destinations despite any terrible obstacles, conditions that they may face. So this right here is the journey map. And I did a journey map and also a product feature roadmap. There were several indicators here of like what kind of features this app could have, what was going to be the differentiating factor between this app and other competitive apps. Not to get into that much detail, but I will say that after doing these 2 exercises, we as a team were trying to figure out, do we go a Google Maps route or do we kind of go with a Yelp style review? We were kind of debating the back and forth between each. And so we were a little unsure at this point of what was going to be the next step. The user flow was so helpful because after understanding what the main core tasks were that the users were going to do when interacting with this app, it was then that going in what direction of Yelp or Google Maps style was revealed. As you can see right here, the user flow has various options, right? And I know it's a little hard to see this, but there's like a few like main reporting actions that the user can do. And then part of that was to add a rerouting flow, because there was a question that was brought up that asked, what happens after they report? So let's say the user sees a faulty sidewalk, sees a faulty infrastructure, and they report it through this app, they take a picture, whatever it may be. Then what? Do we just leave them hanging? We can't. They already feel abandoned as is. So we need to provide a solution that's going to help them re-navigate that area. And so that's where the rerouting flow comes in. So because of that rerouting flow, this is why we went with a Google Maps inspired navigation / reporting app. And so our design decision and direction was determined. And so as a result, we moved on to the very next step, which is design. We wanted to take a step back and really think about what is our MVP, because it can, with the limited time and limited resources, and we wanted to make sure that this was going to be at least a product that can showcase our client's vision, we had to create our MVP. And so that's when we had kind of pretty much outlined what are the most necessary priority features that are needed to meet the basic needs that we have found. But then also outline like what is the ideal? What are the things that could be in version 2.0 and 3.0? And as that app potentially can grow, what are some other features that could be added? So let's take a look. This over here is our MVP. As you can see, map and navigation, reporting features, rerouting feature, and then we also included a user rating feature where they can rate the route that the app provided them, and then they can also rate the businesses that they're going to based on accessibility. And the ideal product, we had unlimited time, unlimited money, and resources, and tons of coffee, was these three ideas. One was to create a community map where users could see all the different pinpoints of all the broken infrastructures in their area and their neighborhood. Two, to also have a profile that would give users points or rewards every single time they reported something, kind of to incentivize those users to actually engage with the platform. And three, being able to report also indoor infrastructures, right? Wouldn't it be wonderful if they had the ability to report, for example, or notify, right, a mall that they feel that doesn't have enough handicap bathrooms for them, or maybe the handicap bathroom has something terrible going on inside. And so those are the different types of features and capability that the app could have. So the design process here was very interesting. I had never done a Crazy 8 exercise before. This was my first time, and myself and the team gathered together to, go our separate ways for a few minutes and just sketch some initial ideas of what this app could look like. And we did try to examine different types of potential features that could be added, ideas. We also did see some similarities and some patterns within all of our contributions. But this over here is just a quick snapshot of what that looked like. And then just overall, looking at the design process. So this right here is what our mid-fi wireframes look like, our lo-fi, and then the patterns. So of course, we first had to identify common patterns that other companies and other apps are doing so that our user isn't completely confused. We do want to give them familiarity based on other products. And then from there, created the lo-fi wireframes. This was very helpful to have an idea of how our app could look like. With our mid-fi, we started adding more UI design elements. And then finally, with our hi-fi, we had a functional prototype with illustrations, designs, color, typography, everything that completed the overall look and usability of this product. I gotta say though, accessibility design is something that I feel is not talked about enough. And so let's put a stop to that. This photo inspired us to create a more of kind of cobalt color palette to help those with color blindness to be able to see it the same way that people who don't have color blindness see it the same way. We wanted to keep it a little bit more on the minimalistic side. Our client had asked for something that was a little bit more kind of fun, a little bold, maybe empowering. And so this over here shows the process for the logo and we had kind of thought through many different types of logos, but at the end of it all, we went with this logo, which was called the Pave Away logo. And as you can see here, this P is supposed to be a pin drop, so that whenever users reported an issue, it would drop the pin on the map. And so that is the idea behind that. Ta-da! I made a little video here of what the prototype looks like. And so this is kind of just showing the user opening it up for the very first time. Now, one thing that was really interesting is that I tried really hard to find illustrations of users on wheelchairs. We couldn't find that, so we, as a team, one of our team members created it and it looked amazing. But yes, here is a very similar like Google Maps integration, which our client was planning and open to using Google Maps and paying for the license. But yeah, overall, this is how they would report a broken sidewalk. They would fill out a form. It would show their location. They could select the sidewalk material. They can select how the sidewalk is. Is it broken? Is it chipped? Is it missing? Are pieces missing, etc. And from there on, they drop the pin, they get the confirmation, and it's great. So once they submit that, they're able to reroute to their destination. And so this app definitely has a lot of different features, which is really wonderful. I think we were pretty happy with the end result. At least I will say I was pretty happy considering the time that we had. We ended up getting about 50 usability testers that were unmoderated. So thank you to anyone out there who's watching this who did fill out the unmoderated usability test on Maze. And then we also conducted 6 moderated usability tests to kind of guide and observe and just watch how the users thought out loud. And so with all of those tests combined, overall, the app did well. Our users rated it on a scale of 1 to 5, a 3.5, so not too bad. They found that the visual design of the app was appealing. Great. And then the second thing was that they felt that the reporting wasn't overwhelming. Great. But however, there were some failures, and I noted a couple over here. So one of the first failures was that users were unsure if their report was submitted. And when I looked back on this, it makes sense because they create the form, right? They fill it out. And instead of it saying submit, the button at the bottom, it says confirm. And I think that threw off people. So they would click confirm, right? And then it would show an overview of the report in case they wanted to go back and edit. And then it said submit. So there was a little bit of a disconnect there. And so yeah, users were a bit confused. So with all of those tests combined, there were 2 fail rates. It had successes in many other areas, but I kind of want to focus on where we failed, right? So the first thing that we failed at is when the user was asked to report, submit a report, they couldn't find the icon button. And so that was something that was extremely a huge miss for us. So this is just a very quick sample of how a usability test can definitely improve your design. Something that our users said that they wanted was to be able to leave a comment after they submit a review. And so I had added over here a comment box. I will zoom in so you all can see that a little bit better. So there is the comment box that they can then submit their review. And then the next thing that users also said, remember I had mentioned about the report icon not being very obvious. So this was the before and then the after. So this way, if they're on their way to their destination and they see a faulty infrastructure, they'll be able to report. And this way it's not so ambiguous of how to report. And then also the other thing too to consider is that people who do have a seeing impairment, they tend to hold their phones really close to be able to see what's in front of them. And so having it structured this way will definitely help ease the eyes. So that's it, everyone. I really hope that you found this case study informational. I definitely learned a lot, reflected a lot about not only how to work with the client, how to think about accessibility in design, how to work with a UX team for the first time, how to lead a UX team for the first time. I mean, this project was just pivoting me in a direction that I really like, and I'm thinking about whether accessibility design should be something I can focus on. Still TBD. I'm very early on in my journey and I'm still learning. But yes, I really hope that this video was informative and also got you to think a little bit more about how you can make your own designs accessible to other people. So if you like this video, please like, comment, and even subscribe down below. And if you have any questions, send them my way. I'm more than happy to provide any types of resources or tips that help me along the way. Other than that, I hope you have a great day. Take care. Bye.